Hello there. Today's first two pages are from an absolutely classic novel, which is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Um, Shamefully, I've never read the book, but I love the story. I've seen very many adaptations of Jane Eyre, right from, oh gosh, must have been back in the 80s when the BBC did a version with Timothy Dalton as Mr. Rochester. I remember watching it with my mum and being entranced by it then when I was in my early teens. I've seen various iterations of it since. Probably the best one with Kieran Hines and I think Samantha Morton. I think it was Samantha Morton. There was another one with Toby Stephens, but the one with Kieran Hines was just wonderful. And the story just, oh, it's lovely. But I've never actually read the book. So perhaps this is, again, I've got an increasingly tall pile of books that I'm kind of creating just by doing this and going, oh, that'd be fun to read. Oh, that'd be fun to read. So without further ado, we will get to, you can always tell it's a classic book because you've got about 50 pages before you actually get to the story of prefaces and information. So first two pages, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. There was no possibility of taking a walk that day. We had been wandering, indeed, in a leafless shrubbery an hour in the morning, but since dinner, Mrs. Reed, when there was no company, dined early, the cold winter wind had brought with it clouds so sombre and rain so penetrating that further outdoor exercise was now out of the question. I was glad of it. I never liked long walks, especially on chilly afternoons. Dreadful to me was the coming home in the raw twilight with nipped fingers and toes and a heart saddened by the chidings of Bessie, the nurse, and humbled by the consciousness of my physical inferiority to Eliza, John, and Georgina Reed. The said Eliza, John, and Georgina were now clustered around their mamma in the drawing room. She lay reclined on the sofa by the fireside, and with her darlings about her, for the time neither quarrelling nor crying. They looked perfectly happy. Me, she dispensed from joining the group, saying she regretted to be under the necessity of keeping me at a distance, but that until she heard from Bessie and could discover by her own observation that I was endeavouring in good earnest to acquire a more sociable and childlike disposition, a more attractive and sprightly manner, something lighter, franker, more natural as it were. She really must exclude me from the privileges intended only for contented, happy little children. What does Bessie say I have done? I asked. Jane, I don't like cavaliers or questioners. Besides, there is something truly forbidding in a child taking up her elders in that manner. Be seated elsewhere, and until you can speak pleasantly, remain silent. A small breakfast room adjoined the drawing room. I slipped in there. It contained a bookcase. I soon possessed myself of a volume, taking care that it should be one stored with pictures. I mounted into the window seat, gathered up my feet, sat cross-legged like a Turk, and having drawn the red moreen curtain nearly close, I was shrined in double retirement. Folds of scarlet drapery shut in my view to the right hand. To the left were the clear panes of glass, protecting but not separating me from the drear November day. At intervals, while turning over the leaves of my book, I studied the aspect of that winter afternoon. Afar, it offered a pale blank of mist and cloud. Near, a scene of wet lawn and stormy beech shrub, with ceaseless rain sweeping away wildly before a long and lamentable blast. I returned to my book, Bewick's History of British Birds. The letterpress thereof I cared little for, generally speaking, and yet there were certain introductory pages that, child as I was, I could not pass quite as blank. They were those which treat of the haunts of sea fowl, of the solitary rocks and promontories, by them only inhabited, of the coast of Norway, studded with isles from its southern extremity, to the Linderness, the Naze to the North Cape, where the Northern Ocean in vast whirls boils around the naked melancholy isles of farthest Thule, and the Atlantic surge pours among the stormy Hebrides. Nor can I pass unnoticed the suggestion of bleak shores of Lapland, Siberia, Spitsbergen, Nova Zembla, Iceland, Greenland, with a vast sweep of the Arctic zone and those forlorn regions of dreary space, that reservoir of frost and snow where firm fields of ice, the accumulation of centuries of winters, glazed in alpine heights above heights surrounded the pole, and concentrate the multiplied rigours of extreme cold. Of these death-white realms I formed an idea of my own, shadowy, like the half-comprehended notions that float dim through children's brains, but strangely impressive. The words in these introductory pages connected themselves with the succeeding vignettes and gave significance to the rock standing up alone in a sea of billow and spray. God, what a gorgeous use of language. Isn't that lovely? So evocative. Now, I sometimes struggle with Charles Dickens, and I read a couple of pages from one of his books a week or so ago, and because sometimes I find that language is so colourful and so descriptive, it kind of gets in the way of narrative. It slows the pace down a little bit, which is a style of writing. And I do love words, and I do love eloquence and all that kind of thing, but I've never been able to penetrate through Dickens. That kind of struck a kind of nice little balance for me there. So I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time with young Jane Eyre. As I say, I adore the story. It's just so beautiful. It really is such an honest and lovely tale. But anyway, there we go. That's today's first 2 pages, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Thank you very much for watching. If you found it interesting, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button so you see more of these as I do them. Most importantly, take care. Keep safe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye for now.